My name is Jim Larimore. For those of you who I haven't had a chance to meet before, I'm the Chief Officer for Equity and Learning at RID Labs, an AI and education company that has worked over the last several months with our colleagues and friends at the Dexterra Institute to catalyze and launch the EdSAFE AI Alliance. And it's my absolute pleasure to welcome you all to this inaugural community meeting for the Alliance today. And with that, I'd like to turn things over to my co-host for the morning, Dale Allen, to get us started.
Great. Thank you, Jim, and thank you for everyone for being here. Many of you we have spoken with either electronically or in person about this alliance. Some of you have been involved with this discussion for approximately 2 years. My name is Dale Allen. I serve as the president and co-founder of the Dexterra Institute. The links are there for you to check out our organizations. But we're a nonprofit organization dedicated to building open solutions to remove barriers in infrastructure and data management and next generation systems in education delivery, and have been supporting work and enabling more AI and ML tools. And out of that came this notion of how do we know tools are safe? And we'll talk more about that. That's the main focus of the Alliance. But as I noted, as people were checking in, this is a community. And one of the best things about a community is we actually need to know who people are, or we want to know who people are. And so we're just going to take a minute and or take a moment. We'll probably take about 15 minutes. But each of you take up to a minute if you want, and we're going to ask you to introduce yourself by name, role, organization, and what just appealed to you about the Alliance, either on your behalf or your organization. And I will just call on people to make this easier. And so by order on my screen only. So John Wittmer, you're first.
Right. Thanks for calling on me, Dale. So I'm John Wittmer. I put in the chat, I am a senior fellow with the Institute for Education Sciences through the Federation of American Scientists. I'm also an advisor to the Schmidt Futures Foundation, and I've been leading data science teams in education for quite a few years, for a decade plus. And I think that kind of 2 reasons for me to join. I think that number one, I think that there's a lot of organizations that are doing really good work in ethical AI that often get put together with people who are doing not so good work in ethical AI and not so aware of it. And I'd like to help contribute to figuring out those distinguishing characteristics so we can separate out the good actors from the not so good actors. And then I also think that that's not such an easy distinction, right? What it means to have transparent AI in the age of pre-trained, neural nets and models. Some of those questions are thorny and open, but I think there's a lack of understanding in the field. So hope to do what I can to kind of both, again, raise that visibility of who's doing this well and right, and help further contribute to that conversation. I'm also reading a book by Cory Doctorow right now for my nighttime reading, if you know Cory, about walk away, and it's rather terrifying the way this could end up. So that's a further personal motivation. But anyway, and partly a joke because I like to make jokes.
Yeah, no, you do, and most of them are good even. Again, just be brief, tell us why, and tell us who you are. Michael Robbins.
Yes, hello everyone, Michael Robbins. I'm a builder of human digital learning ecosystems. Put my info in the chat. We are super excited to be part of this, and I cross over data, distributed ledger, AI, and spatial computing, XR, AR. We're using all of these things to power a learning ecosystem. But I am a practitioner at heart. So we are learning by doing, and are here to make Washington, D.C. the place where we can all come together, to bring, people and technology together around learning.
Thank you, Michael. Ada Wu.
Thank you, Dale. My name is Ada Wu, and I am with Ascend Learning. We are an education company focused in the K-12 higher ed and the workforce space. And my role in the organization is that I lead the Learning and Assessment Development Unit. With the Alliance, what appeals to me is the emphasis on ethical AI and looking at it also from the user's perspective. As I think sometimes we build things, because we think it's cool and we think it's great and we think it's useful. And, the user being in the loop, I think that's a really important aspect that this alliance is talking about. So looking forward to learning from everyone.
Great, thank you. Mark Butland, if I
Yeah.
got wrong, sorry.
That's right. It's Mark Butland, and I'm the director of the Iowa EdTech Collaborative. That's a statewide initiative to increase economic development around EdTech startups and existing and legacy EdTech companies in Iowa. To build on Ada's comment, sometimes I wonder who's driving the car. And when it looks reckless, I think it's important that we have good drivers. I was so excited when I stumbled upon this at ASU GSV. I'm not sure how I can contribute, but I like the direction and I'm privileged to be a part of it. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Everyone can contribute. That's the purpose and goal here, and that's what we're all going to try to work to build. Great. Sumit Arora, and if I have your names wrong, I apologize.
It's all right. My name is Sumit, and I work for a company called Ascend Learning. So I'm a colleague of Ada, and I lead the data and analytics department. I'm based out of Denver. And the reason, I joined this is because I am leading a responsible AI initiative at Ascend. And, we have a bunch of AI and ML powered products, both for our, customers, learners, as well as for internal use. So we thought it's better to start, developing these AI products responsibly. So we have defined a few AI principles, set up the AI governance board. So, I'm just trying to learn more from this group and at the same time contribute back as well.
Great, thank you. Duncan Cox.
Hey there, Duncan Cox from Learning Economy Foundation here. Our organization, we're interested in the Alliance because we work with a lot of institutions and a lot of large groups of learners, and we hope to bring a learner-centered perspective to those spaces. And in today's world, AI is it's a necessary thing in the education space, and so we need to make sure that any AI tools put the learner at the center, and they're learner-focused, equitable, and transparent. And so yeah, we really believe in the mission here, and we're excited to be here.
Awesome, thanks, Duncan. Andrew Zender. Oh, you're on mute, Andrew. First Zoom meeting of your life, we understand.
Nope, sorry about that. I'm Andrew Zender. I am also from Ascend Learning, and I work on our communications team. So I'm specifically here to provide support to my team members who also are on this call from a communications and marketing perspective for our organization.
Great. Thank you very much. Rahul, and you're going to have to help me with the last name, Divakar?
Yes, that's exactly right. Hi, nice to meet you all. I'm Rahul Divakar. I work at Educational Testing Service as an associate research scientist. And I'm new, and I'm just, the thing that excited me about this was learning more about ethical use of AI. So hoping to learn a lot from all of you.
Great, thank you very much. And we're all, this is the first community meeting, so everyone is officially new, so to speak. Sharon Liu from Jobs for the Future.
Hi, everyone. Sharon Liu. I am at an organization called Jobs for the Future. And I guess the reason that we're interested in this alliance is that at JFF, we focus on providing economic opportunity for all of the learners and workers in the US. And we want to make sure that as we continue to develop and invest in technology, that the technologies that support this are actually provide equitable opportunity, that I think to what several people had said before, that there is a very learner-forward, worker-forward approach to this, where in addition to supporting the populations of people that we are concerned about, that we are careful not to inadvertently create harmful circumstances for them. So excited to be part of this conversation.
Great, thank you. Karen Heal, is that correct? Or Heil?
Heil. Hi, I'm Karen Heil. I am a data scientist with Helio Campus, which is a company that provides data warehousing and analytics in the higher ed space. I agree with everything that's been said so far about needing to be learner focused and conscious of the ways that our AI solutions impact students and the ethics and equitability there, which is why I signed up for this meeting.
Great, thank you. checking out chats to see if there's anyone else that I was missing. I'd also like to ask my two colleagues at the Dexterra Institute to introduce themselves. So we'll start with Jeff and then Lauren.
Hi, Jeff Merman, also the other co-founder of Dexterra Solutions and CTO. Obviously, I'm interested in this because it's an exciting new effort that that our members have indicated that they want to be a part of, and something we want to grow. And we're happy that that sort of RID Labs helped give us the impetus to really get this this launched as well. But for those of you who have been involved in the sort of ongoing conversation the last couple of years, you know that one of the things we're interested in as from Dexterra is, with our institutional members, where we have implemented our integration technologies and the tools that we've built with them, the open source frameworks. We're now sitting on a lot of really powerful data that goes back many years or decades on various college campuses in normalized formats. And something we've been interested in is there a way to begin to use that data or help those colleges use that data in new and interesting ways, particularly with AI and advanced analytics tools that they may not be using already. And that led to a lot of these discussions and really is what sort of led to the EdSAFE AI Alliance idea. But internally, we want to make sure that anything we're doing and anything that our members are doing are safe and effective, and that we don't do bad stuff.
Great, thank you, Jeff. Lauren?
Hi, everyone. Lauren Lopez, the VP Operations at Dexterra, and here to help support the Alliance from an operational perspective.
Great. Thank you very much. And is there anyone else that I missed? I think I have everyone. Just double check. Great. We are scheduling to do kind of these monthly pattern of community meetings, and we'll do 2 each time. So we'll try to do one in the early Eastern time zone in a day, and then later in the evening for those folks around the world. And we're really excited to have everyone here today for the first meeting. We have another about the same amount of people signed up, about 20 or so signed up for the evening session tonight as well. And again, everyone just kind of talked about it, and I don't need to hit on this in any significant way. I mean, our challenge is really how do we help for the needs of the consumer in particular, and the ideal circumstance of that consumer. How do we establish benchmarks to help them understand quality, reliability, ethical AI was mentioned a few times, of these emerging and new technologies that are being put to use. And that's something that resonates with all of us, regardless of your role. But that's kind of been our challenge and interest, which brought us together. And as Jeff noted, across Dexterra the last couple of years, he talked about the kind of applied situation of what we have as possibilities and what we're interested in doing. The interest to build open infrastructure and open data sets that can be used to train tools is great. And then the question becomes, how does a consumer know they're safe? Jim, if you want to pick up, that'd be great.
Sure. And I would just, first want to say, thank you to everyone for your introductory remarks, because I think you're in the right place, and your comments are very much in line with what we have hoped would be the spirit that animates this work as we go forward. We do want to take a very learner-centered, human-centered, equity-grounded approach to the things that we're doing as an alliance. And some of that is to start with kind of a learner-centered approach, but also to think very broadly at the market or field level at the same time, to think about where we're trying to go and how it is that we get there. Our goal, as you'll see in this slide, is to create a healthy and balanced ecosystem that's characterized by transparency and openness and trust, right? Because we have to earn and sustain public trust. We believe that we'll create opportunities for growth and success in the education marketplace if we deserve it, and if we're able to deliver results and safeguard people's privacy and cultivate public trust over time. So we really just want to kind of welcome you as thought leaders in the work of defining benchmarks and standards for the field, which we know will then need to be endorsed and adopted by participants in the field, by a variety of different organizations, and also improved over time. So this is the beginning. You are in on the ground floor, and we'll take you, I think, over the next a few slides a little bit deeper into how we intend to try to move forward as a community.
So I was just emailing, Erin is tied up. So Erin Moat was going to be speaking about this. And Jim, I don't know if you want to mention about Erin's organization or the presentation at ASU GSV, which John Wittmer was also on, and we could put him on the spot if we wanted to.
Sure. Yeah, I'd love to put John on the spot. I will say about Erin. So I had one of the things that I suspect that people have in common as an experience is that we get introduced to really interesting, wonderful people by our friends, right? And a number of months back, I was introduced to Erin, very quickly introduced her to Dale, and learned more about Innovate EDU, which is a nonprofit kind of network and alliance that Erin has helped to create to focus on issues of open data, data interoperability, trust in the use of technology, and to really take a learner and teacher and school-centered approach to bringing together a cross-sector conversation about how we all need to understand each other, kind of pull in the same direction, respond to each other's needs and concerns as we try to build the future that we want. And Erin, I think Michael mentioned in some of his comments that he's worked in a variety of different settings. Part of that was also kind of working in the public sector and in government. Erin brings that same kind of background in education, technology, and government to bear. She was an early person that we checked in with about the idea of the alliance, and she jumped in with both feet right away. So she's been a formative player in helping us get to where we are today, and we'll look forward to her involvement over time. She did participate in the launch event at ASU GSV, and in a kind of closed door kind of private meeting where we just wanted to create the right environment for people to speak their truths to each other so that we could get a real sense of some of the challenges that we'll take on in advancing this work going forward. So I wish that she were here to speak for herself because I don't feel like I can do her justice. But with that, maybe I'll invite John if he has some comments to share about his involvement so far or thoughts about the ASU GSV discussions.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Jim. So those are big shoes to step into, but I'll do my best. I thought so ASU GSV, for folks that are not familiar, in case you're not familiar with it, where this was launched, is an opportunity where venture capitalists, and also philanthropists get together with people that are in EdTech startups and see if they can do matchmaking. That's really, I think, in a nutshell, people seeking to innovate in EdTech solutions and either get funded for it or provide funding and get returns for it. And I think in a lot of those solutions, AI is a buzzword, certainly of, I don't know, of the last couple of years. But I think there is at the same time a growing skepticism in the market among people that understand this sometimes and sometimes don't understand it, and are raising concerns about the ethics. And again, you look at image recognition, you look at predictive algorithms, you look at potential bias and training data. There's a lot of issues that come up, and some of those things, in my mind, doing that research, doing that analysis, leading data science teams, it's common practice in some cases. Things like doing fairness analysis. I was with Jim at ACT before I came to my current role, and people said you can't have a subpopulation analysis for bias is not a research question because it's just part of the way you do things. Like that's just what you do in educational measurement. It's kind of, if you don't do that, it's malpractice in a sense, right? And that's something I've really taken away from that experience, and people are doing very good work. And then you get people coming off with criticisms of that work. And I think we need to find a place where we can address those. And I think here, to meet in the middle where we can talk in ways that I think that the public can understand and decision makers can make some, easier decisions than they have to make right now, and feeling like this is an overly technical field. And I don't think that's necessarily dumbing it down. It is making it kind of relevant, and we can come up with those kind of questions that can then translate into the more complex technical ways that we approach some of these issues. I'll say that I'm a senior fellow to IES, Institute for Education Sciences, largest educational research federal agency in the US. And IES is taking this issue very seriously, and incorporating these principles, some of these principles, into upcoming challenges, as well as in the broader principles that underlie all of the research that they will conduct. That's something we came away with, and I think that they are working to incorporate and very aware of that. I think other funding agencies have similar approaches as well. And in my mind, it's really important that we have people who understand the technologies, people who are data scientists, people who are machine learning engineers, a part of that conversation, so that we don't get a situation like they have in Europe with GDPR, which can, prevent us from doing some of the important work and using some of the algorithmic advances that could really stand to benefit our learners, thinking about this as a learner-centered approach, because, you can have extremely transparent, easy to read and understand models that have low degrees of accuracy, right? And like, that doesn't help anybody. Right. And the other, and by using some of the non-parametric, more advanced techniques, we get much better results. I've gotten those. Everybody that, many people here, it sounds like, are getting those in practice. But if people can't understand them and ensure that they're ethical, they won't have trust in those solutions either. And I think that there are actors in the market that are, not doing this in an ethical way, and so could cut corners intentionally or unintentionally. And I think we need to call that out, so that, the good actors are rewarded, and the bad actors are punished, really in the market. And, at the end of the day, I think that, these solutions benefit the people we seek to benefit. And again, these solutions do provide tremendous improvements over prior approaches, with the data that we're getting, and with the kind of predictions and recommendations and classification algorithms. We need to find a way to ensure that those are done in a way that's ethical, and people understand.
Great, thank you, John, and thank you for letting us put you on the spot. And maybe it's because I complimented you on your jokes earlier, you felt more comfortable doing that. But whatever it is, we appreciate it. And again, this is a collective sharing and community. And one of the things that is also really important in this alliance is the realization that when we talk about these things, that the needs for the consumer and standards and specifications don't really know geography, and they don't really know technology. The consumers don't in particular, but we have already had significant conversations around the globe. And one of our multinational engagement partner that's joined in is a small organization called Unesco. And Borheen Shakran has been the point for them with us and his team. And Borheen's the director for policies and lifelong learning systems. And at some point we'll be sharing video from him and posting that up on the site. But for them, who work with countries all around the world, and in particular with a focus, like many of us, or the focus on equity in education, and how it is available, delivered, and utilized, and that technology can support that. They have joined in wholeheartedly, as you can see by his quote alone. We thought it was important for people to take from the beginning of our collective work that there are folks from around the country who have joined, around the world, excuse me, not just around our country in the US, where I'm located, and many of folks on this call are today, but those tonight will not be. We have, for example, we have over 70 organizations that in the last month have joined in as engaged participants from 10 countries. Just by way of reference, you have all been there before, either to look at your own logo, but you get a sense of the interest in the marketplace and the willingness to collaborate and develop shared solutions and specifications and ultimately leading to standards and certifications, and willing to commit time and energy in that. These are from some of the largest entities and testing bodies to the smallest startup you can imagine. And, with Mark and the Iowa, I gotta get the logo up on the screen, Iowa EdTech Collaborative, which we're glad you joined in with us. But it is truly resonated with people as something going forward. So we launched officially on August 9th. This is the beginning of a monthly process where we want to have a community planning process. So today is about a monthly chance to get together and talk and give updates, and then do work offline and really go through that and just start thinking about a shared governance model. And we'll share some ideas on that today, and to make sure people understand the critical need of the member-supported notion that we have brought forward, that there is no one entity that is providing the financial support to do this work. And so the way our model, for those who don't know, my PhD is in public policy and economics, and I always like to say there's no such thing as free lunch. And to do this work, we actually have to have support. And so we'll go after ways to do that on a collective basis, but everyone needs to contribute time, energy, and money when appropriate to support that. And then we'll run a quarterly cycle where we'll have kind of quarterly meetings with the public who want to learn and hear and provide ways to present out on the activities of the group. But we take from the beginning that this is an open community process, that there is no restriction about participation, and that folks can have the chance to join in, whether they have the most resources or the least. We want to make sure they can participate through this, and I'll talk more in a moment about structure and governance. But just to maintain our priorities of where we're starting, I want to ask Jim to kind of talk through this.
Great, thanks, Dale. Yep, as we begin our work together as a community, we've adopted the acronym SAFE, S-A-F-E, to encompass 4 categories that we'll focus on initially. And you can read faster than I can speak. So I'll just say, safety, accountability, fairness, and efficacy are the categories or kind of buckets that we have adopted. It also provides us with a nice acronym to be able to communicate to the public and the different stakeholders about what we're focusing on. But the task of creating the definitions and the standards for each of these different categories will be carried forward by the Alliance's working groups, which Dale will describe in a few minutes. So the bottom line here is that we truly believe that a diverse group of stakeholders working together will produce better results, better definitions, better proposed standards than would be the case if any of us tried to do this work on our own. So there is a seat at the table for everybody. We want everyone's thinking and ideas. We need everyone to pressure test the ideas in draft material that get developed and kind of pulled through the working groups. And we'll look forward to your future involvement in this process. So I wonder if now you want to shift gears to tell us a little bit more about the process for moving forward.
Yeah, and so we started to talk a little bit about this before. We want to come up through the next couple of months with a collective roadmap that has, again, a quarterly cycle for public kind of review, that we can really adopt a shared mission, vision, and values. And we can start, with a governance structure that enables that kind of representation from all levels of membership, and can be engaged with this process with us. Dexterra has stepped forward to be the managing entity as a nonprofit organization. This is something we do pretty regularly. We run communities, we manage and support them. We're not necessarily the experts in all aspects of what is going to be discussed, but our role is to help support the governance that emerges, and utilize the resources that come in for this through that steering committee and governance structure to provide the resources and supports and capacity and talent necessary to help us draft these documents, help draft policy statements, advocacy, be involved across the ecosystem, and continue to get more engagement internationally with this. And to do that, we have an expression of interest. We will be emailing this out. We'll also be sharing these slides, as you can imagine, in the community. These will be going out early next week to everyone. But we'll have a simple interest form that you'll be able to select. And these we'll talk about in a minute in more detail in terms of the working groups and roles, but just to let people know that's forthcoming. So you can self-identify your target interest areas. What would you like to be involved with? And then we will try to meet those goals and wishes, especially on the work groups, and allow people to do that forward. But our interest is in by December, in the next 3 months, late November, is that we have a shared roadmap with the support of governance, with the ability to announce who's populating different roles, who's the lead of work groups that have emerged as we start, knowing that we will be adding work groups through priorities that emerge from this community. Again, we have some thoughts and ideas. I thought I'd talk about structure as well, and kind of how are we going to support this besides Dexterra in our capacity. RID has stepped in as a catalyst to bring this to life because it's critically important in our shared work. It emerged. But we know that this is, as I said before, something that has to be member driven and supported, which includes people that can, and folks that represent the users and users themselves. And so I know a couple of people mentioned that at the beginning of this, Learning Economy Foundation, JFF from a different perspective, and others that we've been in conversation with and we want to be in conversation with to help represent users. But as we think about the Alliance members and membership, we wanted to kind of talk about the levels and governance. And again, everyone should have received at least the membership agreement to start to understand this, because we do have folks who are interested in joining at a sponsorship commitment or a founder circle who can help support the overall work and allow people that join at lower levels to participate and maybe not have to provide direct resources, but can contribute time and energy. So we've set up a structure that in many ways mimics, again, what we do at Dexterra as a membership organization, and provides then resources to support the goals of the group. So we have a founder circle, a builder circle, an ambassador circle, and a mission supporter circle, and those are described in the membership agreement with rough, descriptions of the kind of main tasks and what people are responsible for and can be doing, with the notion that everyone can be on a working group. There will be representation on the Leadership Council. Again, if I look at governance here in the second segment in the interior blue box. And the same thing with the steering committee, that we want to make sure that all 4 of those groups on the left, founder circle, builders, ambassadors, and mission, are represented on the steering committee, the Leadership Council, and across all the work groups wherever they would like. And that the work groups would be established and approved by the Leadership Council recommendation to the steering committee. So really the Leadership Council will be a large convening group that, maybe we start in the 20s with potential interest based on people's willingness to serve. That really will be guiding kind of the working groups, the actions, the directions we're taking, serving as work group leaders potentially, depending on the focus areas. And then the steering committee will be a group of approximately 9 individuals to start, who represent all those different levels of membership, and also will set the direction and strategy and final authority and approval on all matters related to this. And just for clarity on the structure, this alliance is situated under the umbrella of the Dexterra Institute, a 501c3, 509A1 or 2 organization in the United States tax realm. And so it'll be treated accordingly. And one thing we always do when we set up these bigger communities within Dexterra is we'll have a representative of this steering committee of the EdSAFE AI Alliance, who will serve on the Dexterra Institute Board of Directors as well, to, again, always have representation and direct communication between the parties. But EdSAFE AI Alliance really is a sub-entity that is functioning within the Dexterra umbrella, as you think about that. And on the right, we have the implementers. On one hand, those are the folks who are building products and want to have some sort of standard they can build to and be certified against. But then we also have the users who need to also find, as I said before, be engaged. So this is a quick kind of just image to help us think about how we think of sponsorship and levels of membership and governance and the roles within there as a starting point. And one of the things we'll do is start to think about working groups, as I noted before. As Jim noted, we have the 4 emerging work groups that we can start with that are obvious: the safety, accountability, fairness, efficacy. But the other ones that need attention and have already emerged from people are governance. Again, we're starting with a structure, we're starting with some roles and responsibilities and thinking, but we have some foundational pillars to build off of, one of which is we want to make sure that no matter what level of membership they have a role or a seat at the table with the steering committee. and within the other levels of the structure. But we want more input. We want to continue to grow that and make sure our governance is great. We want to work on outreach and advocacy. And again, to extend the invitation to others to participate in this work, to participate in the development and the validation and then the scaling of this use. I mentioned we have 10 countries that are already engaged, or representatives from 10 countries and companies or ministries or others. I can tell you we have another 6 or 8 countries that have already are exploring joining in, both from large scale entities or conveners of folks from across the Middle East and up across Russia and across Asia as well. So it will continue to grow, but we need more work and support on outreach. And then advocacy on the policy front. In particular, it was referenced earlier, but when you start to think about GDPR in Europe or any particular policies or regulations that start to emerge, the EU Commission has I think a draft policy that's out that is extremely restrictive on AI and its use and technology. And I think we as alliance and an alliance of the ecosystem with an ecosystem have the ability to influence and recommend and advocate for, and through partners like Unesco, I think we have that opportunity. And the last group that's already been discussed and thought about is research. And again, John Wittmer is a good example, but there are others. Neil Heffernan with Assessments and out of the Worcester Polytechnic Institute, and Ryan Baker out of UPenn and their center. There's a bunch of researchers who have their own perspective who can also be seen as a resource for folks in this alliance, as well as folks who can recommend their interests and needs and some specifications. But we know this is going to continue to change. And it's going to continue to grow, and some will become dormant and some will become more active at different times. But it really is based on you, all of us, kind of making those decisions. And the goal that we have to start this is that we want to manage a process that allows us to grow and be nurtured and supported through this. And so with that, we made our own internal kind of goal. We want to make sure that we have approximately 20 minutes at least at the end of this for any discussions and questions. And that's a standing practice we try to run. So we've talked at you enough, but we do want to turn it back to the group, and I'll ask Jim to pick up and maybe help facilitate any questions or discussions, and then we'll move into next steps.
Okay, great. Thanks, Dale. So now we've told you a bit about what we have in mind, and we want to open the floor for any questions, comments, suggestions that you might have. And you should feel free either to post things into the chat window or to use the raise hands button in the reaction menu at the bottom of your Zoom screen so that we can call on you. Or you can simply jump into the conversation. We don't stand on a whole lot of ceremony for that, but we'll try to make sure that everyone who has something that they'd like to share has the opportunity to do so. So with that, let me just ask, who has the first question or comment?
Well, Jim, as you know, I'm not shy to put people on the spot. I'm going to ask Michael Robbins, who put something in the chat, if he wanted to just chime in and reflect on anything else, but also mention the specific group you're thinking about.
Yeah. So you mentioned governance in terms of like governance for our work together, but I'm looking at AI from a broader level of governance, which is how do we use what I call DSAOs, decentralized semi-autonomous organizations, or other versions of DAOs to enable governance without government, or governance alongside government. These are essential building blocks. Distributed ledger, smart contracts, understandable, transparent, ethical AI are critical components of all of that. As are neural networks and knowledge graphs. And there are people working on bits and pieces of these, but we have an opportunity in the context of building learning ecosystems, and I know other people are looking at this for other ecosystems, to pull people together around like some concrete problem solving, right? Team building through shared adversity, the NATO model. So if people are interested in this, I just love to put that on the table as a potential group.
I think that's great. And that's exactly, I think, what we're interested in this process. Like the governance we're talking about today is really in a planning phase. Like we need to get something in place to manage what we are, but you're absolutely right. What's next? What are some other opportunities? So please share those kinds of thoughts and thinking. And again, I'll turn back to Jim to take over.
Thanks. I'll put my LinkedIn, my LinkedIn's in the chat, but if anyone joined late, I'll put it in again.
So I think I have a delivery person in our driveway, so my dogs may drown me out here. My apologies for that. But are there kind of other comments or questions that folks would like to get on the table? Okay. Well, and while you're thinking about it, maybe piggyback off of Michael's comments, it occurred to me as Dale, when you were describing Borheen at Unesco and the interest that they have there, that one of the things we might need to think about is, do we need an ex officio category of membership for organizations that can't formally participate, or where there may be some kind of issues there, but where we definitely want them to be included and to be able to share information or some insight with us. So I think that that's another kind of topic for some investigation on our end, just in thinking about how it is that we connect up the different elements or different parts of this broader ecosystem.
Yeah, and I just to make note of what we have set up in the beginning of this process is, again, because we want to make sure that folks like UNESCO, organizations like UNESCO, who have a hard time being members of anything, and many organizations do, they just struggle with that. They don't do it. But also those who are at organizations who can't afford to pay even a $5,000 mission supporter level. We do have the ability, we've defined it in the mission supporter category right now, that if you're in that grouping and are interested in being involved, but money's an issue, it really is just an amendment to the membership agreement that you can document how you want to contribute, which may be, multinational engagement partner. It may be you want to be a research, you want to contribute on the work group with research, and that's your expertise. Awesome. We're not going to be too restrictive, but we just have a little documentation process to support that for now. But a governance work group could answer that even better in the future.
Great.
I don't think we've seen anything in the chat.
We have not. And so if you do have a question and you're on mute, please unmute and ask the question or make your comment. Otherwise, Dale and I will be absolutely stunned if we've left you with no questions to ask. Okay. I think we may have no questions at this point. I will say that, if you do have questions or if you need time to digest what you've heard this morning, just feel free to contact us by email offline and pass along any insights or comments or suggestions or questions that you might have. And we'll try to take all of that into account as we move the process forward. And then you'll have the opportunity with the interest form going out next week to express some areas of interest so that we can start thinking about how we match people up and start bringing different groups of people together to help advance the work.
Great. And again, these monthly meetings, and we've noted them on here, that it's impossible to find a day or a time that will work for everyone within this group when you have at least 70 who have already stepped forward. And then within organizations, Ascend is a great example. There's going to be multiple individuals from one organization that join into this. So that's the goal. So we're going to kind of set up a cadence with the dates and times you see on the screen. Just a monthly third Wednesday of the month, 10 a.m. Eastern, 8 o'clock Pacific, which will allow our friends the following morning over in Asia to participate easier, late on the East Coast time zone, and our friends in Europe and across Russia for the 10 a.m. Eastern, and somewhere in between for the rest of us. But again, these will be kind of check-ins monthly, but a lot of work group or a lot of offline discussions are occurring. We do want and welcome active participation from any of you in the short term. The interest form is one way. Promoting the EdSAFE AI Alliance, take the link, send it to your networks, ask them to join into this work. We want to continue to grow it in any way we can. And we imagine that after the November 17th community planning meeting, we will be in position in December to move into the working groups within a roadmap for 2022 that we all are in consent on. I won't use the word agreement, and that we will start the work. Well, we've already begun a bunch of the work, but you'll start to see active work from those working groups with production, with goals and objectives to be established, with managed support provided, to them with it. So put it on your calendars, promote it to your networks, join in actively, connect with us offline. The other thing I would suggest is if you know people that are experts or would be great people at facilitating these kinds of work groups that you saw listed, please let us know. We have a whole bunch of folks that are recommended to us already, but we want people connected with our network to join in and help spend some time and energy behind the scenes to do the work that's necessary so the rest of us can weigh in. So please feel free to do that. And lastly, our contact information, if you don't know it already, Jim and I are serving as kind of the catalyzing leaders bringing us out. I always like to say the face of this initiative that has kind of hundreds of parents behind the scenes. But he and I have agreed to serve in this role to bring it forth. If you need to contact us or want to contact us, just do so directly. We try to be as good as we can about getting back to people within 24 hours, if not sooner. And about any questions about your opportunities, your role, your interests, the interest forms will come out through the HubSpot process. And then your membership agreements, to complete those and submit them. And we ask you to be as supportive as you can with your time, energy, and resources at the right level for you. And I'll pause one last time for any additional questions or comments, and then I'll ask Jim to wrap us up.
Sure. And Dale, so one question that I have is, will the slides be shared with everyone who's on the call or everyone who had registered today, or more broadly across the engaged participants? And where will folks be able to find their video recording when that becomes available?
Great. Just to summarize that, and our game plan right now is Monday or Tuesday, we'll do an email to everyone that's an engaged participant. So those 70+ registered entities and organizations, they'll get an email with the actual deck linked to it, as well as that interest form, and all the links in the deck are live. And then the recording of today's session and the presentation will be off the website, which currently is open to the public. We imagine a community portal, a platform for all of us to use behind the scenes in the future, but we won't start with that. We'll let that kind of grow here over the next couple months. Any other questions from our colleagues and friends on the call?
Yes, I had a question. I put it in the chat. I missed some video earlier. I was just wondering, what's the best way to keep up with the developments here? Is there a newsletter that will be sent out? And I would love to join some of the working groups. So how does one go about that?
Yeah, so the interest form that will come out, which you just saw, it's just a Google Doc that you can select kind of the areas of interest that you'd have. You'd start to will populate then the working groups with those who have expressed an interest. You have to be a member, so you'll have to complete a membership agreement, which again would have been sent to the point person who registered as an engaged participant for your organization. And if not, we can send another one off to you if you don't have access to that. In the short term, where we'll be doing the updates is here through the monthly community process more than anything else, and an email, an occasional email, both reminding about the meeting and any updates within there. And we sent one out yesterday to everyone that's an engaged participant to just said, hey, we know schedules are awful. Thank you for participating. Do your best. We apologize for picking bad times for you if for religious reasons and other reasons. It's hard. So that's the best way to short term. As I just mentioned, we will deploy a community portal, kind of a behind the wall kind of place where you'll be a member and can access, and then that's where we'll put most of the stuff for us, including all of our documents we're working on and everything else. And then we'll have a public facing side that would share updates and communicate, and we'll add in some marketing communications talent to support the newslettery kind of stuff that you referenced. Does that work for you?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions before I ask Jim to close this down? Great, and just one last comment from me. We try to use these kind of monthly, regularly scheduled times as ways to update, inform, and ask any questions with the collective group and to have input. So hopefully that works for people. If you need additional things, just email, like I said, Jim or I. But Jim, I'll ask you to close us down.
Okay, great. Well, thanks, Dale. So a couple kind of really quick things. One is just a big thank you to everyone for making time in your busy days to participate in today's meeting. and for doing the work that you're doing and having the kind of motivations that you shared when you introduced yourselves at the beginning of today's first meeting for the Alliance. And second, I'll jump in since I didn't comment on this at the very beginning of the meeting. One of the big motivators for me in this work is that my life's work has really focused on kind of access and equity issues, student success issues in education. And often, I think, one of the ways that I've characterized situations is that concerns around equity or other important matters often get brought in late, or they're kind of bolted on to things that are already in motion. So the idea that we could bring together a group of collaborative partners across this multi-sector network in the early days of the use of AI in education seemed to me like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, right, for us to try to center the work on some things that are really important to all of us, and then to see if we can help to shape and define the field as it starts to grow and develop. And so for that, I've joked around with Dale and our colleagues at the Dexterra Institute that, on the one hand, I feel like this is a gathering of the usual suspects, and with a veiled Casablanca Humphrey Bogart reference for those who are old enough or have checked out that classic film. And on the other hand, as one of our discussants described this when we were together at the ASU GSV Summit about a month ago, he looked up at the collection of people who had been involved in this discussion and he said, oh, wait a minute, I get it. This is like a circle of trust. This is a network of trust, so that we know we'll be able to recognize each other in different meetings, and we can think about who shares our values and our vision for what the future can look like as we go forward. And I think that is also this I hope it's not just a once in a lifetime opportunity, but it's a really important starting point. So I just want to thank you all again for signing up early, for getting involved, for bringing your whole selves and all of your experience to the table as we see what kind of good we can get done out in the world. And we'll look forward to reconnecting with you in another month for our check-in meeting and being in touch in between through various types of communication with you all. But big thank you.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. If you need anything from us or we can share the story with you or your networks, just let us know as well. But with that, have a great day.
Thank you all.
Hey, thanks. Thanks, Michael.